I don't even know how to start this conversation. I want to talk about the Epstein files. I specifically want to talk about the awakening that has happened in this country because of the things that are starting to come out in these files. There's always been this myth of this big cabal of powerful billionaires running the world from behind the scenes. The story is that it's the liberals who are running everything. And now we're starting to find out that it's not necessarily liberals, but there is definitely a giant network of billionaires who appear to be running everything. As they release more and more of these files, I have had personally this sort of awakening to holy shit. What the fuck am I looking at? It's almost hard to even wrap my head around. What are your initial thoughts?
Yeah, I completely agree. I mean, we're looking at this as a pedophile ring, but I think it's so much deeper than that. Not that that's not deep enough, but I think it goes much further than that, that the economy is run by rich people. Politics right now are run by rich people. And I mean, ultra rich people.
Ultra rich. So I heard someone say the other day that the pedophilia is not because those men have a desire to have sex with girls. It's because raping little girls is so heinous that they feel that they have so much money and so much power that they can get away with it. And so the attraction to them isn't even the act itself, it's the getting away with it that makes them feel so powerful. And choosing one of the most widely understood taboo subjects. You do not do that to children. And so they're like, but watch me.
It seems like there's some insatiability going on right now. I heard someone say, like, Trump has enough money. Why would he want to grift money from us? He already has enough. But notoriously, billionaires, once they get to a certain amount of money, they stop wanting more, right? Of course not. It's the
No,
insatiability of it that you have more than anyone else on the planet, and you still need more. You still need more stuff. So what happens when you get more money than anybody else, more money than you and all of the citizens of the US could possibly spend in a lifetime? What happens when you get all of that money and then all of that power, and you can use that money to buy power? Where does that satiability stop? It never stops. And so I feel like this is just one more thing of, you need more money, you need more power, you need more control over other people. It's just this inability to be satiated by the wealth and the power that one has.
I I think that we certainly have a problem of living in a system that allows for this kind of obscene wealth to even be possible.
Right.
It it would be possible to live in a world where when people start to make that kind of obscene money, that they get taxed to a degree that that money goes back into the community, back to the people. I guess I just don't I can't wrap my head around having so much that it's not enough.
It's never enough. It never, there is no such thing as enough for wealth hoarders. You see an older woman who's got a tiny apartment and it's full of cat litter and newspapers, she's a hoarder, right? Someone who has more money than they could ever use in their entire lifetime, 100,000 lifetimes, they're not hoarders, they're heroes. And that bothers me so much, this difference between the haves and the have-nots. If it were a system where the amount of intelligence and the amount of work that you do and the amount of education you get leads to more money, I'm all in favor of 100% in favor of that. The system we have set up, though, is that the more you control and oversee other people, the more of their money you get to take. So Elon Musk is not
Yeah.
on the auto line putting cars together. All of those
No.
people who are putting those cars together for him, a lot of their money and their hard work is going in his pocket. And that's what's unjust about this system. Not to call out just Elon
Yeah.
Musk.
Well, I mean, it's so many of them. I think part of what makes this so heinous for me is what you're talking about. They just cannot see the rest of us as people, as human beings. Like I almost envision like Trump and his cabinet and all of the people who are kind of in that Epstein class sitting around like a big risk board of our planet and just moving us around like pawns, like zero conscience about when people die because of war, because the vaccines, the whole thing about trying to prevent people from getting vaccines, trying to convince people that they don't really want vaccines is because then they get the power of knowing that they've killed us and that we did it to ourselves. I'm just mind boggled that these are games that these men play.
It's really hard for me to wrap my head around that they get joy or satisfaction or some sort of sick pleasure in other people dying because they said something or because they decided that those people need to die. I can't wrap my head around that. I don't know what to do with that. But it's
Yeah, it
absolutely
is.
happening. What happens to a person from when they're born and they're being hugged by their mother to then, as an adult, be happy that people are dying in horrible ways?
No, there's something very, very broken. Something very broken in those
So
brains.
many of them who have reached power and wealth.
I wonder if there's something about the ascent to that kind of power and wealth that requires you to have that kind of scruples, that people with a conscience, people with some ethics, some morality, maybe could never get to that billionaire class. Maybe the only way to get to that billionaire class is by harming other people.
Yeah, that could be. That
And I
could
wonder if once they get the taste of it, that it's never enough. Once they acknowledge that they are personally responsible for the death of a person, what difference does it make if you are responsible for the death of one person or 10 million people?
There's such irony in it too, specifically talking about vaccines. There are measles outbreaks. In January alone, 5 times more people died or got measles than in 2025. Just an unbelievable severe outbreak of babies who are getting measles, which a couple years ago was not present in the United States. It was a dead disease. And now people are dying from it. And not just the ones whose parents won't get them vaccinated, which is also not okay, but kids who
Yeah.
are unable to get vaccines. These kids are dying because why? Why? I can't even imagine the reason why people in power are suggesting to not get the measles vaccine. There's no
I think
justification for
it's
that.
the same it's exactly the same thing what we're just talking about though. The justification is they have a taste for blood now. And they are not limited in how many different ways they can take life. So one of the ways that they can take life is by like straight up like raping little girls and murder. But another way they can take life is convincing us, the population, not to get vaccinated. And then for all of those measles deaths or deaths by other preventable COVID deaths, all of those deaths satisfy that bloodlust.
I can't. I can't. I can't accept that. I'm not disagreeing with you, but I can't. It's like I'm reading a book in a different language that I don't understand.
Yeah.
I honestly can't understand that. I can't put my mind around that to say, oh, that must be what's going on. One counter argument with the measles vaccine, they're preferentially killing their own voters.
See, this whole thing, what I want to talk about today is this awakening that I've been having. So I used to think that they would care about that. For a while, they had to care about it enough so that they could get the ultimate power. Now that they no longer need their own people, they don't care that it's their own people who are dying. As long as those people served a purpose, they were going to kind of toe that vaccine line. Now that they don't need any of those people, they're just going full bore like, no, you don't COVID. It's not going to kill you.
I wish I could understand this much better. This deep, dark place that we're describing, that we're starting to see a little bit the fact that it exists, this deep, dark place, and maybe a couple little pen lights going in there. It's not lit up for sure, but it seems very, very scary and very dark. And I definitely don't know enough about it. And I'm definitely trepidatious.
One of the things that's really been bothering me, especially over the last couple of weeks, as we've learned more and more, and not just more about what was going on, but just the vast amount of people involved in this. So, one of the things that's been bothering me the most is where did it go? This pedophilia ring, where did it go? Because I cannot imagine that entire class of people with all their money and all their power and playing in our face, knowing that we now know and they don't even care that we now know. I cannot imagine those people saying Jeffrey Epstein's island's going to get closed down because he got arrested and now he's dead. Well, shoot. It was fun while it lasted, but doggone it. I guess we don't get to play like that anymore. No, those men aren't. No, they didn't shut it down. They moved it. They probably moved it deeper underground, or maybe even not underground. Maybe it's even more out in the open now because they are so powerful that they know that there's really nothing that the rest of us can do, or they think that there's nothing that the rest of us can do. And in this, right at this very moment, I feel very powerless and very helpless. I do feel like there's nothing we can do because everybody knows about it now and they're all like, yeah, well, I do think there's going to be power in the way that the population responds to all of the things that we're starting to learn. But right now, I'm still in shock. Like, I'm still, like, my body is in shock of, I can't absorb the amount of evil that's involved in this and the scope of it on a planet-wide scale. My brain isn't quite to the point yet where I can process it enough to be like, okay, so now what do we do about it? I'm still reeling from the reality that this is what's happening. This is our reality.
Where are the victims of the current rings? Because I know it took 20, 30 years for these victims to surface as they are, and they're being threatened, and their families are being threatened, and they're oppressed in the most significant way, if not just taken out of the planet. But at some point, those victims are going to sneak through and escape and talk about what's happening.
I think that they really truly believed that they could scare those victims into silence. And actually, for a long time, they did. I mean, a lot of these women did escape decades ago, but could not speak their truth, or if they did speak the truth, no one was listening. So before the Me Too movement, no one was going to believe a thing that they said.
Right.
You're gonna tell me that a 19-year-old little girl who's making accusations against Lex Wessner, Donald Trump, Jeffrey Epstein, that people are going to listen to the girl
I think
before Me Too?
before Me Too, no. I think it was a different world.
Now, I don't think that they think it would ever change.
I think it is changing. I think we need to believe women. We, collective power, need to start
Yes.
believing women. So with Pam Bondi at the Senate hearings just this last week, talking about that there's no evidence, there's no credible evidence, but there's evidence in the files that were released. How does someone look at that and not look at that as evidence? The only way they can say this isn't evidence is if you completely dismiss all of those things as made up by survivors. But I am firmly believing that survivors don't make up. Why would they make up this horrible story? What do they have? What is in it for them? Absolutely nothing but shame and horror and trauma. There's no benefit to making this up. So how could they possibly accuse these victims, these survivors, collectively of that many people, 1,000 people, children, making it up?
It's a playbook that worked for literally centuries, to be honest. This has been going on since the beginning of time. But in our modern world, this has been going on for so long. I really truly believed that they thought in their hearts, in their heart of hearts, their little shriveled up black, like coal-shaped hearts, that they would never get caught and that no one would ever believe these women, and that no matter how many women spoke up, no one was going to side with them. Because back when it started, when this iteration of it started, people were not believing women. I think they thought it would last forever.
So it's even deeper than that, though. I think this sense of power and complete ability to get away with everything, I think it's actually proven to be true, because even if we believed women, let's say E. Jean Carroll, we believe her, a jury listened to the evidence, convicted Trump of sexually assaulting her civilly. Still, they looked at the evidence, they said, yes, you did do this. Nothing happened. Nothing happened. I guess she got a little bit of money. I'm not even sure she got the money, but nothing happened. He's sitting in the Oval Office, having been convicted of sexually assaulting someone.
So one of the plays in the playbook of an authoritarian takeover is psychological warfare. And one of the ways that they completely deflate the people is by playing in their face, which is what they're doing now, is finally coming out with it all and laughing about the fact that there's nothing we can do about it. And what then happens in our minds is we start to spin like, what do you mean nothing's going to happen to these people? Like, how is that even possible? And when we finally come to some acceptance that nothing is going to ever happen to those people, then we completely give up. That's the playbook anyway. That they do the psychological warfare on us to say, look at what we did and you can't stop it. And we go, you're right, I can't stop it. And then we give up. And that's how authoritarians are made.
It makes me angry enough that I cannot possibly see a world in which we proceed as a society and nothing happens to them. I think that's not going to happen. One of my favorite moments from the Pam Bondi Senate hearings was when she was talking about the Dow, $50,000, and then they laughed. And I thought that was the most transparent, authentic. It wasn't cruel. It wasn't demeaning to her. It was just acknowledging the ridiculousness of her theatrics and her inability to grab onto anything. She's a sinking ship right now, and she's just grabbing anything like the Dow. And the fact that they laughed, it was just like, okay, this is beyond something that we're going to accept as reality. And I think that's where we need to be as a society, is that we're no longer going to accept this as a reality. And we're not going to let ourselves be spun into thinking this is normal.
It's not lost on me that the people who have gone down and who are in the process of going down would be Ghislaine Maxwell, Pam Bondi, Kristi Noem. The women who think that they are exempt from what's happening to the rest of us because they're in proximity to power are going down.
They're on the front line specifically
because they do not have power.
Caroline Leavitt, they're all the women lined up in a row, taking all of the heat.
It's the women taking all of the heat. I also don't understand that. As a woman, I don't understand taking the side of the powerful men. I mean, I think that probably is its own sickness. They must feel so desperate to have power that they're willing to stand next to it instead of get it for themselves, because that's as far as they're ever going to get, is standing next to it, even at the cost of their own souls.
So if they actually don't have power, what is this insatiability of pursuing more and more and more power if they don't actually have it? I think they're just deluded into thinking that they have power.
That's part of the illusion of power, is that you convince the people around you that they have a little bit of power when ultimately they have none. But you convince them enough so that they continue to do your bidding, thinking that the more they appease you, the more power they are going to have. And it is just illusion. It's not real.
How do we talk with people who look at the Epstein files, or refuse to look at them, but hear things about it, and say those 3 million documents, not 6 million, those 3 million documents exonerate all the people in it? How do we even deal with people who can look at that and say, no, there's no evidence there?
You're not going to like my answer. I think those people are gone. I don't think there's any coming back for those people. For the people who can still look at what is happening and be okay with it, make justifications for it, simply not believe it, those people, there's no coming back for them. If this didn't do it, there's not ever going to be a thing that's going to do it. We've talked before about the possibility of a civil war in this country. And I posed this question nearly 2 years ago. About a year and a half ago, right after the election, I was like, holy shit, what is a civil war going to look like in 2025, 2026? Because we're not going to have armies fighting at the front lines. And I posed the questions, and the MAGA just went apeshit crazy about my post. They're like, oh my God, what are you thinking? And now they're the ones out there going, we're ready for a civil war.
So I've seen some of those, and I have to say they're a little bit funny. The aggression with which they're approaching this.
Yeah.
You go get ready, dude.
So what I kind of think is that we're not going to save those people. Those people are so far gone that we almost maybe have to have some break in this country, like some kind of a civil break. Like, y'all down there in the South, because a lot of those folks are centered in the South, y'all go do your thing. Send the sane people up north or up to the coasts where the sane people live. We'll trade ya. You know, you can have all our cray people and you give us all your sane people. I mean, I almost feel like a break is inevitable because I don't see any way of ever bridging that gap between those people and us. And I hate that there's an us and them, but there's an us and them right now.
So the distinct and opposite polar ideologies are not north and south this time. Right now, it is rural and city mostly. So because that
Yeah.
geography is not favorable to a split, something else has got to happen.
And I don't know what. That was why I asked the question, what does this look like now? Do the states secede? There's been jokes about states seceding from the union, but if Minnesota went down that road and said, "Hey, we'd like to be part of Canada," I can't say that I would fight that
I think that'd be
at this point. I don't
amazing.
want to be part of this United States right now. I don't love being part of it. I mean, I love what I wish we stood for. I don't love where we're at right now.
Hey, you know what our algorithm needs? It needs you. That's right. Please like or share or comment. So I have this philosophy about space travel. But don't worry, I'm coming back. Space travel. We're right now
Okay.
spending billions and billions and billions and hours of people's lives figuring out how we could live safely on a different planet, where we could take that money and invest in Earth, where we already are, and try to live here. It's easier to live here if we fix some things than it is to live on the moon or on Mars or a different planet after we fix some things. We're suited to be here. I feel like there is I don't know if I would go so far as a responsibility or accountability, but I think there's this pull that I have to fix the US to make it a place that our founding fathers were, with some edits, hoping to make it. I think there's so much good about the US that abandoning it doesn't feel like the right move.
I'm not in a position to abandon the country. I have to move forward in this country because I'm not in a position to be able to just up and leave. But again, this is part of the awakening that I was talking about earlier. Also coming to this stark realization, and it hurts me to my soul, that the country I thought that I grew up in never existed. I thought I grew up in a country that had moved past racism and misogyny. I mean, when I was very, very little. And then, you know, as you get older, you realize, oh, that's not at all what, like, we were taught the policemen were the good guys. And here I'm watching policemen beat people up and murder them for no reason.
Those are not,
Cognitive
ICE is
dissonance.
not police, just saying. ICE is not the police.
I was talking about Philando Castile. The problem that I'm seeing, I mean, obviously right now, February of 2026, the more clear problem is ICE. But police forces were created as slave rounder-uppers. That was the original intent, was to go out in packs and recover runaway slaves. And that is what has become our police force. And I know that there will be people listening to our podcast who have dear, dear loved ones who are in the police. I'm not saying that every single person who serves is a horrible, awful person. What I'm saying is the system was designed badly, and it allows for tragedies like Philando Castile and George Floyd and
And
Breonna
countless
Taylor
others.
to happen, and countless others. I'm not dissing on individual police officers. I'm dissing on the system that we created that I didn't ever really realize was part of the DNA, the fabric of the country that was created on the backs of slaves. And we never got over it. We never got over slavery. I heard a really interesting YouTube from one of my favorite creators who goes by Parkrose Permaculture. And she said that she's realizing that she can't really rest on, I can't wait for the Nuremberg trials in America to happen. Because when she really went and looked back, the Nuremberg trials convicted something like several thousands of people over the millions of people that were involved. What ended up happening was all of those people just melted back into society. It didn't go away. They weren't held accountable. A few of the people at the top were held accountable. A few of the people at the bottom were held accountable. And the same thing happened in the Civil War. There were no reparations, no recompense. There was nothing done to make up for the harms that were caused those people at that time. The people who lost that Civil War didn't go away and they didn't change their minds. They just melted back into society. And I have this big fear, and she did as well, that when all of this comes to a head, MAGA is just going to try to melt back into society and pretend like, wasn't me. I wasn't there. Wasn't there. Our dad would say, yep, there wasn't a single German in Germany at the time of the war, because everybody would say, it wasn't me. I wasn't there. I would be so devastated if that same thing happened now, where MAGA had zero accountability and billionaires have zero accountability and pedophiles have zero accountability. I mean, this is what made me want to have this conversation, because the awakening and the realization that I'm starting to have that this is what we are living in, and that I am currently powerless to change it, as are most of us. It's my mind is having a very hard time processing it.
I'd like to believe that there are individuals or groups of individuals within the police who are, over the centuries, trying to change that system for the better, so it actually reflects something positive. I'd like to believe
Yes.
that while you and I can't do anything personally, the systems that we collectively have set up, the courts and the judges, are politicians who are clear thinking and brave enough to say something, that all of that is going to work itself out, that someone's going to be held accountable. I understand not everybody would be held accountable. I think you're right. A lot of those MAGAs are going to come back and melt back into society, and that hatred and that ideology is not going to melt away. But I would rather have them shamed into hiding than in power right now. So yes, I'm not sure that we can wipe out that kind of ideology altogether. I'm not sure that's even what we want to do.
No, I want to do that. I want to wipe out that ideology. I absolutely do. There's nothing positive about it.
The fringe, yes. Centrist Republicans, I think, are healthy for the country, healthy for dialogue, healthy for
I'm not
keeping
talking
everything in
about them.
check.
I'm talking about MAGAs.
Yes, agreed.
I'm talking about the MAGAs who still think that Donald Trump was appointed by God to save the country.
Yeah. Yeah.
They can't come back. They can't come back to my table.
Some of them have. Marjorie Taylor
They're
Greene
not welcome here. I still wouldn't have her over for dinner. That is an interesting one. So if people did actually do the inner work and change, there's room for them at my table. Great. Come on in. It's the people who melt back in as if nothing happened that I can never forgive, because they didn't do any self-accountability. There's going to be so many of them that don't ever do any self-accountability and then continue to teach generationally down the line the hatred and the bigotry and the misogyny and the racism, all of it. Those people, and the thing is, we know who they are right now.
because they're being out and proud.
15 years ago, they were still hiding, but they were hiding to a degree that I could convince myself that they had gone away, that wasn't a thing anymore. Racism, the way that I'm seeing it now, as a younger person believed was gone. And yes, I absolutely am talking to you, Black women, when I say to you, I was wrong and I didn't hear you. And I'm listening now. I think that those MAGA are going to melt back into society, but now that we know who they are, I think we have to stop them from doing that. I think we have to not let that happen, especially because of the families that have been destroyed from within because of this. Those families have to hold those family members accountable, even if accountability looks like shunning. Like, you can't come back here until you do the inner work. You can't see your grandchildren unless you do the inner work, unless you do the healing work. I think that's the only way that we're ever going to change the system that we're living in right now, is the people that we have in our own lives that have already cut us off because we're too liberal can't then come back to us later and expect things to just go back to normal with zero accountability. I don't feel very hopeful that that'll happen, but I feel like that's a necessary step if we're going to rebuild this country. And not just the United States. A lot of countries that are governed by democracy right now are facing this exact same thing. It's not to the scale, and it's not out in front of our faces as much as I think the United States is, but it's happening everywhere. But I think the only way that we're going to rebuild society that doesn't allow for that to happen is we have to continue to hold those people accountable and continue to do it, not just, okay, thanks for your apology and things are back to normal. No, like you can't, you can no longer be in power. You can no longer be the heads of law enforcement. You can no longer be the heads of Department of Health and Human Services. You know, you people cannot continue to hold positions of power.
The current situation is going to end one way or another, and I don't know what that's going to look like. This is not sustainable. This sort of extremism and
Yeah.
authoritarianism is not sustainable in 2026, where we're talking with each other and there are enough people who are not wanting this authoritarianism on multiple political spectrums. We don't want this, so we're not going to see millions of people die like in these concentration camps. I don't think that's the way it's going to go. So when this ends, that's the time that's going to require a great deal of thought, conversation, nuance, care, because there's so much anger, there's so much hurt, there's so much destruction going on right now, and people are so angry right now, justifiably, that I worry that sort of, I'm going to break it down into good guys and bad guys, even though that's not nuanced enough, that the good guys are going to so fervently go after the bad guys and say, you can't hold positions of power, you can't be a teacher, you can't be a nurse. If we're so fervently going after the bad guys, what point do we cross over and become the bad guys and become the authoritarians? I think it's going to require a lot of very careful moving forward and critical thinking. And it has to be done so intentionally so that we don't end up becoming the bad guys or the authoritarians, or the ones who are saying that we understand, we know right from wrong and you don't, and therefore you're wrong, you can't hold positions of power, you can't participate, you can't vote, whatever it is. I feel like that would be just doing the exact same thing with a better fundamental ideology, and we can't go there.
Okay, I take your point that we have to be very intentional about how we move forward. I don't agree. Telling a school that I will not allow my child to be taught by that teacher is not the same thing as ripping families apart and deporting them to countries that they've never been to before, putting them in those deplorable conditions that are currently concentration camps in the States and elsewhere. We are not the same. I
We need
have
to.
no problem with saying to those people, you cannot hold positions of power anymore. You had it and you lost it because you did it badly and you caused irreparable harm. I don't think that us holding them accountable by taking them out of positions of power is the same thing as turning into them.
There has to be a line, though, and we need to define what that line is. So, yes, saying I'm not going to have my kid go to a school where the teachers are teaching the Bible as religion and not just history or literature. What if we take the MAGAs and we say we need to put you in one state where you can all go together and be in that one state? That's sequestering people. We need to
Agreed.
draw a line somewhere, and that's going to be very difficult to do because we bring it back to the conversation we had at the beginning of this, which is when is it ever enough? This constant search for more money, more power, more authority over other people. I worry, justifiably or not, that we're going to have the same kind of passion, even though we have a fundamentally different ideology of love and uplifting and equality and respect and support. I hope that's enough for us to make sure that we don't cross that line and start behaving in a way that's not appropriate.
I think one of the reasons we have gotten to the point where we are now is because we have tried so hard to be the grown-ups in the room that when the rest of them just rolled right over the grown-ups in the room, we still decided to deliver a strongly worded letter. We have not gone far enough. I get your point. I think we do risk going too far. I'm willing to take the chance.
I'd like to live in a world where the grown-ups are in charge.
Yes,
With
I
decorum.
do too, but the grown-ups have to put the kids in time out. We can't gentle parent our way out of this one. These kids need to have some accountability. They need to learn some lessons. If a little child was out in the yard shooting people with dad's gun, you take the gun away.
Totally agree.
I have no scruples about that. So I'm not talking about rounding them up and putting them in concentration camps, although, no, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I kid so that I don't cry. I don't think that we're in as much danger of that happening as what I'm hearing. I hear you don't want us to go there. I just I don't feel like we're gonna go anywhere near there. We won't become nearly as evil in our efforts to hold people accountable as they are evil in their efforts to have more power and money.
Okay, we'll just keep that fundamental ideology. We will not become that evil. We'll keep that forefront. I think there are two things that we need to look at, though. One is the change. We need to get out there and wrestle that gun away from that kid. We do. Something's got to happen, and it's not going to be pretty. And we are going to have to do more than strongly worded letter, right? We collectively. The second period is the rebuilding. And I think that's where we have such
Yeah.
a great opportunity to build a foundation of equality and respect. And if we have anger toward one group of people, that's not equality and respect.
So maybe it's a matter of timing.
Yeah.
Let's say everything stopped today. All of the evil, heinous things stopped today. And we start talking about rebuilding tomorrow. I can't do it. I can't do it. There's been too much hurt. Maybe a few years down the road, I'll be in a position where I feel like we can start to have some conversations and be equal. Uh, No, no, we can't just stop everything and then put us all on a level playing field, because then we end up where we are again now in another 100 years. This is what happened at the Civil War, is that we just everybody's equal now.
But what do we do?
But we didn't act like it. We didn't hold anybody accountable. We didn't change the systems. We just put our guns down and we're like, okay, the war's over now. And we didn't actually do any work, or very little. We didn't do enough work. So here we are again. And I feel like I'm okay with things not being equal for a while. They lost their privilege.
What do we
They
do
broke
with
all the toys. They don't get to play with the toys anymore.
what do we do with the people who are MAGA, who want to fade back into the background and be part of society again? What do we do with them that doesn't make us the ones who aren't promoting equality and respect? What do we do with them? Or do we have to put every one of them in jail? Do we have to kill them?
No,
Do we
no.
have to
Well,
sequester? Do we have to shun them from society so they become poor?
that's the one. Not the so that they become poor. The shun them. The shun them is the one. I think that's a big piece of it. I really do. I think the rest of us standing our ground and saying, we are not okay with this. And if you don't do any of the inner work to change, we can't sit at the table together. We won't vote you in. We won't hire you as our governmental leaders. We're not going to hire you as our teachers. You have to do the work.
So this is all behaving in a way that's within our systems right now. So we're not talking about moving them or taking things from them,
No.
taking away the vote, taking away their livelihood. But we can, within the systems that we have, where collectively we decide who's on the school board, and collectively we decide who's in the
Yes.
politics, and collectively who gets our money, because we get to decide where our money goes. Those are the ways, which are the
Yes.
ways that the US was founded on, with edits, to move into a direction that we want to collectively, which is more uplifting and more positive. So I think that is a way to deal with it that isn't crossing a line and becoming more the bad guy than the good guy.
I would agree with you there. And we absolutely have to have more people of color and more women in positions of power.
The last two non-Trump presidents had really good diversity in power.
And that, I think, was part of what tipped the scale.
Right.
It made the racism and the misogyny bubble up because they couldn't contain it anymore. They couldn't contain their own racism and their bigotry. So it spilled out over. So I think that President Obama being elected was one of the reasons why we're here now. I loved him as a president. I'm not saying we go back and do it differently. What I'm saying is
No.
that's part of what pushed us over, is our efforts to diversify. And so we have to now diversify and not let it get taken back over
Yes.
by bigotry.
Yes.
We have to continue down the road, but we have to make it impossible for those people to ever hold positions of power. And that would be in entertainment, in media, in news media, in government, in big business, corporations, all of it. Education, health and human services, like all of those things we have to get those people out of power in those areas because they broke the toys.
In a way, this was inevitable. This situation we're in right now was inevitable,
Yeah.
where racists
Yeah.
and homophobes and all of the phobes were seething underneath the surface with these people who are just, I honestly cannot understand. Not liking someone because of their differences from you. That's just seems to me so incredibly limited and ridiculous and short-sighted and uneducated and naive. I'm not going to get a passport because no one out there looks like me and speaks my language. Like that, no, I don't, I can't accept that. Anyway, it's almost like this had to happen because when Barack Obama got elected, that was amazing. And it was so good for the country. And we're actually finally breaking a lot of glass ceilings with this. Not we, I mean, the Obamas did it and the population did it. And that's an amazing thing. But then this boiling hatred of not someone who looks like me all of a sudden got too much for them. And that's when this whole thing happened of the huge backlash and the white men who are saying that their culture is being destroyed. It's way above and beyond rationality, but that bubbling, seething hatred had to come out. And now we can deal with it. We can see it. I didn't see it
Yeah.
before as much. I mean, I knew, of course, that it was there, but I didn't see it like I do now. And now we can deal with it. And I think what your point is that we need
that's
to
what
deal
we're
with
saying.
it.
Yeah, we need to deal with it and not let them melt back into society and continue to poison
And push down that
the
hatred.
culture. Just pretend it's not there. No, that
Right.
if those people need to live out and proud in their bigotry and their racism and their misogyny and their ableism, let them live to the end of their days out and proud. Fine. But not as people who have any power over me.
And hopefully not
or
pass
you.
that on to their children, which means getting the right education.
Generational trauma, though, it's inevitable. There's no way generations don't carry that for multiple generations down. And I think that's what we're seeing now.
The trauma, yes.
We're living out the generational trauma of the Civil War, the trauma that the losers of the Civil War felt they experienced because they lost is what's coming up now. I mean, and realistically, they did have some trauma. When they lost all their slaves, they lost everything because they couldn't run their plantations without the slaves. And so they lost everything. Yeah, it's traumatic. Yeah, not as traumatic as what you did to other people, but it's traumatic. So I get it. I understand why that trauma has trickled down to generations. But now is the time when we need to stop it. We need to turn it around.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying too. Making sure that people are exposed to critical thinking and the truth about our history and the value of diversity, all of those things that I thought were moving in the right direction. And I think they moved so far in the right direction that there's this huge backlash and it wasn't handled well by people who have hate.
Yeah. Yeah.
Maybe you can help me with this one. I struggle right now when I'm dealing in the US. I don't do business with people, not the dentist, the hair cutter. If they're hardcore MAGA, I won't do business with them. That's just a deal breaker for me. I'm not going to do it. And I'm not going to justify that. That's my choice. And I'm doing that.
You don't need to justify it.
Because MAGA people in the US voted for what's going on right now. They voted for people to be murdered and they voted for people to be stripped of health care and they voted for measles deaths. They voted for that. And you can't say I don't agree with all the policies. No, this is exactly what you voted for. And you were warned. We were very vocal about what was going to happen. And it's even worse than what we thought. Here in Canada, I think I have a bunch of friends who are conservative and maybe even in favor of Trump, but they don't vote. So I'm not going to cut them out because so far we're friends, right? But what do I do with that frustration of I have friends who are conservative, but I don't want to cut them out, but they're also not voting. So they're not actually doing harm to my family and friends in the US.
I think it comes down to more than how they would vote. I think it comes down to what do they stand for in the world. So maybe they never vote in American politics, but if they are people who have that deep-seated hatred of other people because of their differences, that's the issue. It's not really an issue of whether they're conservative. It's an issue of do they have that deep, deep hatred and how deep is it buried and how dangerous would it become if it bubbled to the surface?
Right. Right.
And we may not ever get to know that about people who are kind of on the fence. So I also have a really good friend who is conservative, and I'm really struggling with this right now. how much of my time and my soul do I invest in someone that I really deeply love and care about? And I'm convincing myself right now that this person is not MAGA, simply conservative.
One way to approach it is their actual behavior. So to me, it doesn't necessarily come down to
Yeah.
who they voted for. And I'm not going to go digging into people's social media accounts and their phones and prove to me that you're not MAGA. That's crossing the line to being just like MAGA is being right now. I'm not willing to do that. So if people's behavior are accepting and loving and uplifting and not murdering people on the street, I would say, then I'm willing to maintain those friendships.
I think so too. I think the people that I am vehemently against are the ones who are very vocally in favor of the horrific immigration policies that are happening in the United States right now.
I think that's a willful
So,
ignorance. Just refusing to look at the actual stats.
yes, for whatever reason they got there, they're not ashamed to say that they stand on that side. Those are the people I'm talking about. We have to get out of power. Those are the people we have to shun. The ones who are out and proud and boldly standing in their bigotry. So these friends of ours who lean conservative, I would not classify those as people who are gone.
Yes, exactly.
Their actions are expressing something different than MAGA.
Maybe the way that I would put it is I refuse to go to a haircutter or a dentist who's MAGA because they hate me so much, not because I hate them so
Yeah,
much.
they do.
I think that's the distinction, that I don't want to be overtly, actively hated because I'm a critical thinker.
I will confess, I have allowed myself to indulge in some hatred toward them. I don't want to live in that space forever, but I have never known this depth of hatred. I didn't know that I had it in me to hate people this much. And right now I'm okay with just letting it be where it is because it's not coming out in my behaviors or my actions. But it's something I need to sit with. I need to work with. But there it is. It's the inner work, and I'm going to do the inner work.
Yes.
So by the time we get to the healing part of this process, I will have worked through some of that already.
What's ringing in my head right now is Darth Vader and Luke Skywalker. Darth Vader was saying, yes, Luke, give in to the hate, give in to the dark side, become one of us, let that hate eat you up. And I don't think that's where you are. I think you are hurting right now in very, very obvious ways with healthcare and with racism. These things are going on in your backyard. People are being shot in the head in your backyard. So of course there's going to be feelings about that. It's just human to have that. But the fact that you're willing to do the work to move past that into action and empathy again and respect to people who you can respect, that's the difference. That you're not going to give over to the dark side just because you're angry and hurting right now.
Yeah.
And hating.
In the social media spheres where I engage in a lot of these conversations, I think there's been a terrible lack of permission for us to express how much hatred we have for the ones that hate that much. Like there's anger, but I don't hear a lot of people saying just outright, like, I'm feeling things in my spirit, in my soul that I didn't think I could feel. And I don't like it. But I don't think we're going to do ourselves any service by pretending that it's not there or by pretending that we're above it when I'm feeling it right now. Like I don't feel above my anger and my hatred. I feel like I can get there and I feel like I will do the work to get there. But I think we also have to just acknowledge that there's a lot of hate for the people that have caused this much damage to people that I love.
I understand, and the damage has been caused to people I love, like you, and countless others. I'm not willing to sit in my hate, and that could be me not being able to do the work about hatred, but I'm not willing to sit in the hate. I want to dig deeper on what that is, and to me, it's injustice, and it's feeling like I've lost something valuable to me, but I'm not comfortable in the hate. I'm comfortable with your hate. Totally, you go do it.
mean, I'm there. There's nothing I can do about it. It's an acknowledgement of what's just it is. It is what it is. But I can work on it.
Right. But maybe just own
Yeah,
it for a
I don't know.
while. The owning it for a while is how you
That's what I
process it.
mean. That's what I mean when I say sit with it.
Right.
I need to look at it because it's something I didn't think I would ever experience. This much anger, this much hatred towards other people. I need to look at it before I can figure out what to do with it.
But I think the hate is coming from a place outside of you. I mean, the hate is coming from people who are oppressing and murdering people. This is not hate generating from you because someone looks different from you. It's hate because someone else is hating
No.
so much. And you're being the
Yes.
target
And
of that
harming.
hate.
And
Hating and
harming.
harming.
Hating and
Exactly.
harming.
Exactly. And you got to stop short of harming, which I know you will.
Yeah, and I'm not feeling a drive to harm. This hatred isn't making me want to harm. This hatred is making me want to cut off and focus my attention on the healing and the helping and the places where I can be a part of the healing journey.
Mm-hmm.
For me, though, I don't have it in me right now to allow current MAGAs to be part of my efforts toward healing. And maybe that's never going to be the work that I personally do. Maybe that's work for other people.
Right.
But I can focus my work on healing the immigrants in my community that have been devastated. The businesses, the small business owners who came to this country for a new life for the American dream who have been devastated by this. I'm going to put my energy into healing that. If someone else wants to come in and do the work of healing with MAGA, go for it. I will support you 1,000%. I can't do it.
Okay, so this is what we need to do right now, is take the best universities and institute brand new departments of MAGA healing, MAGA psychology, so we can get these masses of people to get in there and start healing themselves and start feeling love and empathy again.
That's part of the problem. They have to heal themselves. We can't do it for them.
Yeah. True with everybody.
And I just don't think that they want to. And the ones that do, you will find your people. Don't come knocking at my door. I'm not them. I just can't. Right now, I can't. Look, I'm almost in tears. I really cannot. Really,
You
really
don't have to.
hate those people. I really hate those people. Like a depth of hate I didn't know that I had inside me.
It makes me very
And
angry that you're feeling that kind of hate.
I don't want to harm them, but I want harm to come to them. I mean, just between us, this is real. I really want those motherfuckers to have to taste what they have been feeding other people. I want them to taste it. I want them to taste that bitterness that I don't think they ever will.
They don't have the ability to taste anymore. They don't have the ability to feel anything.
This kind of takes us back to another conversation we had a few weeks ago about what work do we all get to do? And I think I'm coming to the stark realization that healing MAGAs or that bridge is not on my plate. It's not my work to do. I can't.
Fair to say right now.
And I think that there's this understanding that as human beings living on the same planet, that we all have to do all the healing work. And I'm just saying right now, I can't. But I'm in favor of people for whom that is their work. Great. I will support you in any way I can, except I just can't do it myself.
That's more than fair.
So maybe part of this awakening for me is really just kind of learning about myself that there is just work I will not do. But there's a lot of work I can do, and I will do, and I am doing.
I don't think it's necessary for you to be fulfilled as a human being to do the work to make you a MAGA healer. It's not who you are. It's not your role. It's not your job. It's not your responsibility. Other people will step in there. That's not something you need to check off as I need to be a better person and heal MAGA. It's not the case.
I think that comes with being the adult in the room, right? Being the grown-ups in the room. Part of that is this kind of narrative that I'm hearing a lot on the socials, which is when this is over, we need to do the work of healing, the bridge building between us and the MAGAs. And I'm just now realizing in this conversation with you that that is never going to be my work. And I'm okay with that because I'm not also going to get in the way of people doing that work.
Of course you would.
I'm not going to try to prevent that work from being done because it's necessary, critical work. It just can't be me.
There's so much pain right now. There's no way you could do that.
No.
Everyone's got
No.
their role. We do not have to step into every crappy job that there is. And this is a conversation we've had too about, oh, no one's going to step up to do that. Well, I guess I better. No.
So all of us get to have a say in how we move forward. And I think the awakening for me is just the beginning of it. I'm just now feel like my eyes are opened to what we're actually dealing with on a global scale. Once I can sort of wrap my head around a little piece of it, I don't think I'll ever be able to fathom the whole scope of it. But once I wrap my head around the pieces that I might be able to do something about, then I can figure out how to move forward and what parts of the community I can heal right now.
Yep.
I don't think for me it's ever going to be getting myself elected to the Senate. That's also not my role. I think for me, it's going to be building relationships with the people that I live next door to, and with the people who clean my house and the people who cut my hair. And building those relationships, I think, is going to strengthen our communities. And I think that's the work that I'm called to do. That's so bad. I'm mad too that they make me hate this much.
I'm mad that you're hating that much. Like, what the hell do you want?
My lady who cleans the apartment building, she's coming to work to clean for me and the other people that live here. Everyone else in her family has had to stop going to work because they're terrified. And she's holding the entire clan together on the salary of a cleaning person.
And there are millions and millions of stories exactly like that, heartbreaking and devastating and unnecessary.
I just don't get it at all. I just don't get it. I don't get them at all. I really do want their teeny peenies to fall off.
Okay.
I really do.
You know,
In the most horrific and itchy of ways. Painful and itchy, and then shrivels up and falls off. And then you live with the consequence of that for the rest of your life. What does a rapist do when he loses his teeny peeny?
he becomes an authoritarian.
Our puppies would really love if you would like and subscribe to the content. If you like it, look at those faces.
The faces. Thank you.